this is one of the things that Donald Trump said he would do if he won the election. And by the way, I'm not a big tariff guy myself. I am a free trader, and I do believe that free and fair trade are incredibly important to the world economy. And by the way, Trump generally believes that true, but he also wants to make sure that American workers and companies aren't being discriminated against.
Well, let's talk about the situation going on between the White House and the EU in terms of tariffs, because yesterday Donald Trump threatened to impose a 50% tariff on the EU after claiming that trade talks with Brussels were going nowhere. But the EU trade chief, Markos Sefcovic, has refused to back down, saying that EU-US trade is unmatched and must be guided by mutual respect, not threats. We stand ready to defend our interests. The new 50% tariff on all goods coming from the EU into the US would come into effect from June the 1st. Well, let's now speak with Stephen Moore. Stephen is a former senior economic advisor to Donald Trump and the author of Trumponomics, Inside the America First Plan to Revive Our Economy. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So what do you think's going on here? Is this an opening gambit to get the EU to do a deal? Or do you think that this 50% tariff is actually going to be what happens on the 1st of June?
Well, I don't know if I would use the word gambit, but it certainly is a shot at the bow of the Europeans to try to get them to the negotiating table. Donald Trump is frustrated with the pace of progress with the European Union. We got a good deal that we feel is a good deal for both the UK and the US several weeks ago. Obviously, there was the big deal with China, which still hasn't been completely consummated, but looks like that's going to come into being. And the Europeans have been kind of nowhere so far in terms of coming to the table and negotiating. And listen, Americans simply want a fair deal, a level playing field, and Europe doesn't impose substantially higher tariffs on the United States than we impose on them. And so this is about fairness. And this is one of the things that Donald Trump said he would do if he won the election. And by the way, I'm not a big tariff guy myself. I am a free trader, and I do believe that free and fair trade are incredibly important to the world economy. And by the way, Trump generally believes that true, but he also wants to make sure that American workers and companies aren't being discriminated against.
And so what do you think is going to happen? Do you think the EU is going to come and bend the knee to Donald Trump, or do you think they will play hardball on this and we are going to be in a world of
Right.
of aggressive tariffs?
Yeah. Well, you're closer to them than I am. I'm in Washington, D.C. You're there, I think, in London. So it's hard to know. Look, one of the things that we Americans believe is that the Europeans can almost never agree on anything, and one of the problems is getting 15 or 16 countries to all agree on something. We've always said the only thing that the Europeans can agree on is they don't want to pay their NATO dues, but
That's
that
not
makes
quite
it
fair. The
complicated. So
Europeans do agree on a lot of things. The EU has, it's not without its problems, but it has held together for a long time. And indeed, lots of people want to join the EU. I mean, I know we left the EU as Britain, but a lot of people want to join the EU.
right. Well, what I'm saying is, regardless of what things of the European Union, it's hard to get, the bureaucrats who run the European Union to act in the interest of all the countries. Like, for just as an example, we think that the Italians would love to make a deal with the United States. We have a great relationship with the Italian government, and yet their hands are sort of tied because of their inclusion in the EU. So my point is, it's more complicated to get a deal with the EU than it was with Britain or with even China, which is the hardest one of all.
And you haven't really got to deal with China.
Say again.
You haven't really got a deal with China
Well,
yet.
I mean, yeah, as I said, it's not finalized. And, we believe the old Reagan maxim, trust but verify. So you're right. There's still a lot of work to be done
Yeah.
on that deal. But at least the Chinese came to the negotiating table. The Europeans really haven't.
And look, I mean, and it doesn't feel, I mean, it was interesting seeing JD Vance, who actually did have a meeting with Giorgia Meloni and Ursula von der Leyen a week or so ago. It feels like the EU will hang quite tough on this. That's my kind of gut feeling. But just to go back to my earlier question, do you think we are just now in an environment, I mean, you're not a tariff guy yourself, Donald Trump clearly is. We're in a new era of big tariffs.
Question, and that's a tough one to answer. I mean, Trump does use tariffs as a weapon. Trump. All of your listeners know that Trump is famous for many things, but one is for his famous book, The Art of the Deal. And he talks a lot in that book about the idea of having leverage. And if you're negotiating someone and you have leverage over them, then you're probably going to win the negotiation. And what Trump is saying is that, the Europeans need to trade with the United States much more than we need to trade with them. I mean, we are, the kind of epicenter of the world economy, and everyone needs to trade with us. That was the card that Trump has played with the Japanese and with the Chinese. And so at the end of the day, I do think the Europeans will have to come to a deal.
Well, let's see what happens. It's going to be fascinating. Well, Stephen, thanks very much for your time. That's Stephen Moore. Scott messaging just saying, I'm sick to death of Donald Trump. The man is a total menace.
We have a very big announcement today. It has to do with nuclear energy and other things.
And what about the European Union? You said that negotiations are going nowhere. Where are the kind of points
where they're
just very
slow moving? I've been saying to everybody, they've treated us very badly over the years. It was formed in order to hurt the United States, in order to take advantage of the United States, and they've done that. We have a big deficit with them. They sell millions and millions of cars, as you know, Mercedes and BMW and Volkswagen and many others, and we were restricted from selling cars into the European Union, which is not nice. And I just said it's time that we play the game the way I know how to play the game. They've taken advantage of other people representing this country, and they're not going to do that any longer. Yeah.
Mr. President. Secretary. Sure, I'll just add to that before going to Will. Energy security is national security.
I'm not looking for a deal. I mean, we've set the deal. It's at 50%. But again, there is no tariff if they build their plant here. Now, if somebody comes in and wants to build a plant here, I can talk to them about a little bit of a delay. But, while they're building their plant, which is something I think that would be appropriate, maybe, we'll determine that.
Do you
have any questions for these?
On Apple, you said this morning that if they don't make their iPhones in the U.S., you're going to hit them with a 25% tariff.
Right.
Do you have the power to tariff one single company? And why would you
No,
want to
it'll
hurt
be
an
more.
American company in that way?
It would be more. It would be also Samsung and anybody that makes that product. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair. So anybody that makes that product, and that'll start on, I guess, the end of June. It'll come out. I think we have that appropriately done by the end of June. So if they make that product. Now, again, when they build their plant here, there's no tariff.
Are you looking for a deal in 9 days? Will you be able to do that, sir?
I'm not looking for a deal. I mean, we've set the deal. It's at 50%. We have some really amazing deals, but the European Union, I mean, the sole purpose was really not to hurt us, but to take advantage of us. And we're not going to be taking
Mr.
advantage.
President,
has had the effect of throttling development of new, highly modernized nuclear reactors that could really revolutionize the field of nuclear power generation. So this executive order, it orders a revised regulatory process to speed this